To our board meeting tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad that you're here. I'm sure it will be an exciting one. We will try not to disappoint you. We do have a quorum here, and I'd like to ask Dr. Coverstone if he'll do the Pledge of Allegiance for us.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our first order of business will be the election of the board chair and vice chair. We will start with the board chair first, and I'm opening the floor for nominations for board chair. Dr. Brannon?
Madam Chair, I nominate Dr. Sharon Gentry.
Are there any?
And I nominate Jill Spearing.
Any other nominations? Seeing that there are no more nominations, I will now close nominations for board chair. And I will defer to my colleague, Mr. Pinkston, and we will vote by candidate for office. The first candidate who was nominated was Dr. Gentry. We will have a roll call vote. So, Dr. Gentry?
Yes.
Dr. Brannon?
Yes.
No.
Jill?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Hayes?
Yes.
Will?
No.
Mary?
Yes.
And me?
No.
Okay. And then for Jill Spearing?
No.
Dr. Lee?
Already won.
Okay.
I don't think we need to vote if she's already won. She's got 5 votes.
To defer then. Okay, all right, then we will close with Dr. Gentry being elected as board chair. Congratulations. Okay,
Congratulations.
Our second order of business is to elect a vice chair, and we will do it in the same manner. Open for nominations for vice chair. Yes, sir.
I'd like to nominate Elisa Kim.
Lisa Kim. Any other nominations? Oh, well, Elisa Kim, you win by acclamation. Congratulations to you. Okay, so now that we have concluded our elections, we'll play fruit basket turnover and change seats.
I take this thing over there.
If you come up here.
Do I take this thing?
You can.
Yeah, you have to take that.
Thank you.
Where to go?
1, 2, 3, 4, right there where the Lisa is. Elisa?
Okay.
Oh.
Over there.
Take your little name tag with you. Yeah, you don't want to. You don't have to do any buttons. Kenny's got it.
Next order of business. We'll start on the end with Faith.
I don't have any announcements. Yes. I want to say, first of all, congratulations to our new board members, Thais Hunter and Mary Pierce. We're glad to have you on board. and also to our returning board members, Anna Shepard and Joanne Brannon. Congratulations. Congratulations are also in order for our colleague Amy Froeg, and with appreciation from Jay Steele for their leadership in extending our recess time by 5 minutes to 20 minutes. Hopefully this will stretch into 30 and maybe more, but right now we're glad to at least see it progress, and for all of the elementary principals to have volunteered to make this reality. Thank you both. I'm a member of the Insurance Trust, and I just want to share that we have 5 health clinics that are geographically located throughout our city, and they're staffed by Vanderbilt nurses. And we're about to build a new facility here at Bransford Avenue, and we will double the capacity of the number of teachers and participants that are able to be seen on a weekly basis. This new facility will also be able to, we'll have chiropractic services, physical therapy services. There'll be a fitness center. We'll have behavioral counseling and pharmacy, and this will benefit our teachers and our staff. I'm really excited about it. The Teaching and Learning Committee meeting will be next Wednesday, September the 17th in the boardroom, and we will discuss additionally, from what we don't cover tonight, Dr. Register, strategies for turning around our priority schools, and we will also discuss the new start times for high schools. I want to bring notice tonight that I will submit a motion on October 14th to change our 4th meeting of the month from a work session to a business session. And I'm sorry?
Second meeting? Second meeting.
Oh, did I say the first? Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay, 4th Tuesday, our second meeting. And I'd like for that to, my motion will include that, new turn of events to begin on October 28th. I'm planning another community meeting for the Neely's Bend area in October. We want to involve our parents and our community in ways to transform the Neely's Bend area, and especially the priority schools that are Neely's Bend Middle and also Madison Middle. And hopefully we can talk more too about beefing up our community achievements for these schools. That concludes my announcements.
Thank you, Ms. Berry. Anna?
Thank you. I'd like to say thank you to John Dorch with Deloitte for the invitation to come to the Deloitte Education Fair held last Thursday. Deloitte has set the standard for gold standard for school involvement. They have won numerous awards for their involvement in our schools, and they start with the leadership at Deloitte as they set an example for all of their employees. Last year, Deloitte had a presence in 22 of our schools and had an impact of over 10,000 students. So that's pretty amazing. So I want to say a huge thank you to John and everyone at Deloitte. I want to also thank Alignment Nashville, the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce, and the Pencil Foundation for the Middle Prep launch that we held last Wednesday, August the 27th. The student ambassadors were really phenomenal, and I'm really excited about the Middle Prep program as we roll that out. I want to, as a reminder for our viewing audience, the Metro Nashville Public School First Choice Festival will be held on Monday, September 22nd at the State Fairgrounds from 4:30 to 7. Fred Carr is not here tonight, but I wanted to say thank you to he and Taffy Marsh and their team. I had a transportation issue at one of my elementary schools that was pretty important, pretty critical, and they had that entire problem solved by the afternoon. And I got wind of it about 10 a.m. in the morning, and they had it solved by the afternoon. So thank you for helping our students like you do every day. Okay, so I have two announcements that are left over from Miss Mays, so I've been tasked with that. So she wanted me to let you know that the Tennessee Association of School Librarians placed an administrator in our district. The librarian, Cammie Townsell, nominated Miss Stephanie Ham, lead librarian, for this honor. And so they are to be commended for their extra efforts for this award that they won. And also, I just want to let you know that we did receive a thank you letter from Ronnie and Sandra Wilson. If you remember correctly, they're the two individuals that will be traveling to China next October when our delegation goes to China, and they were given a free trip because of their outstanding service to our Chinese visitors that come every fall. So I just wanted to say that they sent a very nice, long and lengthy thank you note. I won't read it all to you, but they were very touched with the gift, and so we will look forward to having them on that trip. That concludes my announcements.
Ms. Kim? Mr. Pinkston?
No, thank you.
Ms. Pierce? Rowe?
But I do add a couple things. I'm so excited about recess expanding in all of our elementary schools. I'm looking forward to working on the middle schools next. But I did want to thank Dr. Steele, who was very responsive, and to all the elementary school principals for agreeing to increase recess times. And recess is so important for our children. It provides physical, social, emotional, and cognitive benefits for them, and it can even help boost those coveted test scores. So thank you, Dr. Steele, for helping make that a reality. That's it.
All right, thank you. Next on the agenda, we have awards and recognitions. I'm going to ask Ms. Rita McDonald from the Nashville Chamber of Commerce to come forward.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Madam Chair, congratulations.
Thank you.
School board members, Dr. Register, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to announce My Future, My Way Career Exploration Fair, year 2014. This is the 6th annual career fair, and we're excited about this. This is going to be the best one yet. So mark your calendars. It's going to be Wednesday, October the 29th. Time is from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m., and it's going to be downtown at the Music City Center. We are expecting 7,000 freshmen, students, over 300 business partners, around 200 exhibitors, and 100 volunteers. And this year we are implementing a Twitter campaign. So it's #Career14, so make note of that. So what I'd like to do now is introduce our speakers. First, our sponsor, David Davenport, who's the CEO of Shoney's, who makes this event possible. We couldn't do it without him. He's going to come and give some remarks. Next, we have 2 students who won an essay contest, and that was last year, and they both won an iPad. They were really excited about that. So we want them to come and share a brief overview of their essay. Jennifer Gomez, who attends McGavick High School, she's with the CMT Academy of Digital Design and Communications, and her principal, Robin Wall, is here with her. And is Keithlin Starlin here from Lead?
Probably on his way.
Okay, very good, very good. So he's from Lead High School, and his principal is Laveau, Dr. Laveau McGrew, and hopefully they're on their way, and they'll give a brief overview as well. So we'll conclude with a few pictures, if you will, and look for a press release first thing in the morning. So if the CEO of Shoney's, David Davenport, will come with his comments, let's welcome him. This man makes it possible for us to have this fair.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What a beautiful setting. One of the reasons I agreed to come out here, I felt I'm going to high school. I felt like being very smart around Dr. Register. All the audience here, the smart people around. And I figured I'll be a little bit smarter, so I'll be talking smarter. But look, a few years ago, I've got involved with Mark, asked me to do this. And I said, why not? This is one of the principle what Shoney's stand for, one of the things that we do, giving back to our communities across the country, in particular in our back home, right here at the corporate office, right here in Atlanta, Georgia, and Nashville, Tennessee, which we are involved with a lot of work that we do. But what are the things that I believe in to do? Obviously, initially nobody was involved. We just Say, let's do it, and pick up the phone. We made a lot of phone calls, and today, proudly, I'm hearing 7,000 students coming through. Thanks to Dr. Register for doing this, making it possible. But our mission is very simple. The fact of the matter is not only giving back to communities, one of the things we want to do this to feel good about ourselves, but also it's about to demonstrate to the future of America what possibility exists for them. The choice is very simple. You could look a little bit north in Chicago, what's happening to our children out there. Look in Nashville, Tennessee. Thanks to leadership, to all of you, to made it possible. We have a brighter future for our children through this event, My Future, My Way, to come out there, see that we care as a community for all of our students. What I believe in is very simple. I think all of you guys are extremely intelligent, all of our teachers, we really truly in America, we teach everything we can to our children, but should not stop there. I think all of community leaders have a fiduciary responsibility to be involved with what we do to our children, to our future of America. And also, two other things beside that are, us, they learn everything out of school. Also, we gotta do what we gotta do as a community leader. At the same time, home is very important. Home is very important also to please reach out to parents. Somehow we want to let them know that they cannot stop. Education cannot stop only at the school, should be at home, should be in community leaders, should be involved. And then, of course, we're doing our part, and I think it's growing more and more every year, as most of you guys have seen. And I made a commitment a few years ago. This is 4th year that I've been sponsoring this. We will continue to do it again next year. We're not stopping there. We're going to do it enough till Mark says no more. We don't need you anymore. We got somebody else. Well, I don't know if it will happen, but I'm there. I'm not going anywhere. Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'm humble and grateful to be here this evening. God bless all of you. God bless America. God bless Nashville. And thank you for making me part of this event. I appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Gomez, and I'm at CMT Digital Design at McGavick High School, and I'm a sophomore. Today I'm going to be talking about the career fair and how it impacted me. You're probably wondering why do we have the career fair? Why not just be in the classrooms and do textbooks and realize what you want to do? Well, no, the career fair helps you, and it helps you by you talking to the people and experiencing it and talking with them hand by hand, having conversations with them and knowing what career you want to take. And when I was there, from that point on, I realized that school is too important. I realized that it's not about talking with friends and stuff like that. It's about work, and to be able to do your career, you need to continue work. And I hope and I want that the career fair to be able to be continued, because I want students to experience the way I feel. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, first of all, Jennifer, and her principal is standing right next to her for support. Keithan is not here, but this is his principal, Lavelle McGrew, and she wants to make some comments on his behalf.
I will, and I will say that we are very proud that Keithan won this, and I bet you that like half of Nashville, he and his father are stuck in traffic. So just let me say that to sum up his remarks, what he learned most at the career fair was about learning to love the work that you do, and that what really matters is that you have a positive impact on your community, and that really doesn't matter if you become rich and famous, as long as you do something you love and you help others. And I think that about sums it up. And so thanks again on behalf of Elite Academy and Keithan Starling. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we're excited about the career fair, as you can see. At this time, if we can have a group picture, I don't know if the whole board wants to come out front. Certainly, we want Madam Chair and Dr. Register, if you guys will come out. And we need Miss Jennifer. I'd also like to recognize Beverly Flatt. Beverly coordinates the career fair from the MNPS side. She does a fantastic job. Beverly, I'd like to recognize Mark Hill, Chief of Policy at the Nashville Chamber, who we'd love for him to be in the photo as well. And we need our sponsors. The sponsors go up front. You're going to represent Thanks, everybody.
So in the spirit of keeping things exciting, I've just been informed that you really don't exist in this seat right now. So we actually have to vote for Elisa Kim. So we just need to go around the table. We had the, do I have to make the motion again?
Or you have a motion on the table, but you just need to vote.
So we just need to call for a vote, starting with Thais? Yes. Yes? Yes. Vote for yourself.
Yes.
Thank you very much. The yeses have it. You are now officially, now you exist. Thank you very much for being here. Next, we have public participation. We have individuals who have contacted the board and asked for some time to speak to us. We have 3 minutes for each individual. I hope you practiced. We've got a bell. You want to tell them what it sounds like? That's it. And we have, in this order, Mr. Peter White, followed by Thomas Weber. If you all will line up, that would be great. Jay Sanders, Rebecca Bracken, excuse me, and Tara Johnson.
Where we left off at the last meeting, just the timing thing was new to me. I only sort of got half the information out. The important information, though, however, I did present to you, which is that the district did not factor in test scores in determining GPAs for matriculation to the magnet schools. And that's not only abandoning the policy that began, I think, in 2011 here at the district level, but it's also a violation of education law here in the state of Tennessee. The facts are really undisputed. I have a written confirmation from the district that, in fact, they didn't do that. I think they should have done that. In my family's case, my son was denied matriculation to the school of his choice because that was not done. And I am here this evening, my number's right there. Last time, nobody called me, nobody seemed concerned that the district had violated its own policies, that it had broken state law. I received no emails. What I told you never made it into the minutes. So here's my number. If any of you are concerned about that, there's my number. Text me. I'll call you back. In fact, if any parent in the district has a student going to public school here in Nashville who has been denied educational opportunity or the school of their choice, or have been transferred from the school of their choice unfairly, and have gone to the school and have gone to the district and have gone to their board member and have not resolved the issue honestly and with the rights of their children restored, which have been denied, I'd like to hear about it. An injury to one is an injury to all. But I'm just one person, and I'm sure there are other students out there who have been denied their choice of school and deserve to be where they're not. So any parent out there who has a gripe, regardless of the issue, I want to hear about it. My name is Peter White. That's my phone number. I'm only one person today. Next meeting, maybe there'll be 2 of us. The meeting after that, maybe 4. Pretty soon, we'll have more people here, and we're going to shut this place down.
Ding, my turn? Hard to follow. Is it my turn to start? All right, I don't want to lose any of my three minutes. My name is Thomas Weber, and this is getting to be a bit of a habit, and for that I apologize. I wasn't planning on coming back here for a while, but after the Strive vote last month, I felt compelled to offer a public apology to Mr. Pinkston. Mr. Pinkston is my representative, you see, and I was not in favor of the resolution that all of you signed and all of you helped craft. And being kind of naive, I thought when you passed a resolution, that meant that you were going to follow it for a while. That meant that that was going to be the rule that MNPS employees followed. So I expressed my displeasure on numerous occasions with Mr. Pinkston, and he was forced to take my calls and listen to me. And for that, I apologize. In the future, I will keep in mind that not all the resolutions the boards pass are going to actually be followed. Okay? I would urge you in the future, though, to think about that long and hard. Okay? People follow what you say. People follow what you write. People follow what you rule. Let's make sure that when you sign resolutions and you pass them and you put them out there for public consumption, that they're followed, okay? Not just by board members, but employees of MPS as well, okay? Because that's why you were elected as our voice. Real quick, use the last 3 minutes for a shout out to the Inglewood folks. I'm glad to see them here. The ASD is following a failed plan that follows the RSD in New Orleans, a place where there's no public schools now. A couple numbers to keep in mind, that if the ASD is to meet their goals over the next 2 years, they're going to have to show 11% growth. Right now, they're not even back to where they were on reading scores when they took over those schools 3 years ago. And schools that were not taken over in Shelby County are showing better growth than the ASD schools. ASD schools do not need to expand here, and I'm glad to see the Inglewood folks educating themselves and getting out here and letting people know that they're making their voices heard. Thank you, and hopefully I won't see you guys for a couple of months, but we'll be following you. Thank you very much.
Dr. Register and board members, thank you for allowing me this time to discuss with you my support, our support for Ms. Carrie Mickle and the team at Inglewood Elementary School, my neighborhood school. My name is James Sanders III. I'm a graduate of Father Ryan, don't hold that against me, and the University of the South. My wife and I are parents of 2 girls we are raising 2 girls in my childhood home. When it came to enroll my oldest daughter, Julia, in a school, we looked at several option schools, but we liked Inglewood. Our decision was validated when Julia's encore teacher, a veteran MNPS teacher, left our early admission IEP meeting and said that was one of the best IEP meetings she's ever participated in. Since then, Ms. Mickle and her staff have worked very hard to help Julia meet her IEP goals, and Julia, now a first grader, is thriving. As you know, Inglewood is a Title I school, and within 10 minutes of walking in that front office, you will see the vast array of problems and issues and concerns and challenges that these kids bring to school with them. Now, some people say that leadership is responsible for the failures and the gains of a school, but there is no way that you can look at the challenges that these kids come to school with and say the poor scores are a result of the team of the leadership in that school or in many schools. The principal does set the tone of the school, and I believe that Ms. Mickle has set a tone of creativity, compassion, and diligence, and she has assembled a team that is filled with strong, talented, and resourceful teachers. In the last year, the National Association of Elementary School Principals has shown their support for Inglewood by giving us a new playground. The Laura Bush Foundation showed their support for Inglewood by granting us a significant gift for our library. There are 200+ signatures and emails online from community members and others to show their support for Inglewood. And we have over 150 signatures of local people only, neighborhood people, to show their support for Ms. Mickle and the Inglewood Neighborhood School. The community stands behind this principal, the team that she's assembled at Inglewood. And I am here to ask you to consider to allow Ms. Mickle and her team to implement the plan that she has created, give her time and resources that would be allowed to ASD to improve our scores. Thank you.
Well, my name is Randall Bowens. I'm a parent of 3 children that attend Inglewood Elementary School. I'm a product of Shelby County Schools from Memphis. I'm a top 10 graduate of my high school. I'm an alumni of Tennessee State University with my degree in history. For the past 4 years, my kids have been exceptional students at Inglewood Elementary. Every report card, they bring home nothing but A's, few B's. Me and my fiance and their mom, we actually put a lot of work in working with our kids, making sure we educate them. The years my kids have been attending Inglewood, each year I see more and more growth. Academically, reading, their reading levels have increased. I have a 3rd grade daughter that reads on a 6th grade level. Their test scores improve every year, and since Ms. Mickle has been the principal there, I also see big improvements when I walk through those front doors. I can kind of piggyback off Jay, given the circumstances of each individual, kid, student, household comes from different backgrounds. They have different situations. But given those circumstances, I can honestly say that the staff that has been implemented within the school, they are very diligent and they work very hard to help these students improve their lives and their education. My oldest daughter, she's a 4th grader. She'll be going to middle school next year. And she talks all the time about how the school is just getting better and better. She loves her teachers. She always has great compliments when I come and have lunch with them, when I take lunch breaks to have lunch with them. They have nothing but respect for the elders, and I see a lot of students follow in my children's lead. And I say that because when other kids see parents like myself actually visit, and have lunch with them, it inspires them and encourages them to want, talk to their parents about it when they get home. So when I go see, I see other parents participating. My kids talk to their friends, they encourage them, and I just think with Inglewood and the direction that Ms. Mickle is taking them is a very positive direction, and I encourage the board to pay closer attention to what plan she's actually implementing, because just because you have a few bad seeds, you can't really include that within the whole bunch or the whole basket. I think Inglewood is a very good school, and I think the neighborhood is coming more and more together, you know, just through parents sticking together, our PTO meetings, the neighborhood churches, just people communicating, and I see a huge growth. And I'm from West Tennessee, and for me to be here, the 8 or 9 years I've been here, I've seen a huge improvement with Inglewood and the Inglewood community. So that's my time. Thank you, guys.
I'm Kara Davis, parent of a second grader at Dan Mills, and I have a toddler. I'm also leader of Community PTO and the proud daughter of a retired teacher who spent 34 years in metro schools. There's a groundswell of support happening in Inglewood and East Nashville for our community schools. We care about our kids in our schools, but we also care about all kids in the Pathway schools, because these kids learn and play at their individual schools now, but they begin to come together down the path culminating at Stratford. Nearly a year ago, our community came to the board meeting and spoke in support of the success of Stratford and its Pathway. We're here again to say we care about our children, all children, and East Nashville schools. Over the past 2 years, neighbors, parents, and community partners have been forming connections in support of our neighborhood schools. We want them to work. We want them to have the resources they need, and we want to be part of it. When we find out Warner needs laundry done once a week, someone from a nearby church offers to do it. When we hear that Kirkpatrick needs reading buddies, we get to work and fill the need. When we see that half the students are walking to school at Stratford in the cold with no jackets, we put a call out and receive more than $8,000 in donations to buy them brand new coats. When we hear that a freshman is sleeping on the floor because she has no bed, we find one for her and we deliver it to her. We organize kickball games, pregame tailgating parties, and preschool playground meetups. We connect PTO officers from different schools to share ideas. We make breakfast, and we tell local school staff that we appreciate the high-pressure, stress-filled job they feel called to do. We meet with our principals and assistant principals and social workers. We talk to cafeteria personnel, custodian, coaches, even local pastors and business owners. We're all about relationships and facilitating connections, because that's what community is. Successful neighborhood schools are in the best interest of everyone in our community, and I'd venture to say in the best interest of our city. It takes a village to raise a child. We do not expect the district or the state to have all of the answers to the education puzzle, but we ask that our community school leaders be given a fair shot at doing all they can to address all the issues surrounding student success. We're a community on the move, and we're committed to the Pathway. We want to come alongside you in support of the success of Stratford Pathway, and that begins in pre-K and elementary school level. Inglewood and East Nashville is growing. Newcomers to our city are choosing to live and invest in our community, and they are choosing to send their children to our neighborhood schools. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes public participation. From there, we'll go to the consent agenda. I'd ask each of you to take a look if there are any items that we need to pull. Item H, amendment of lease agreement for Lipscomb University's use of the Stokes Building. Anything else? Ms. Kim, if you'll read the remaining items on the consent agenda and present it for vote.
A.
She's going to
C, recommended award of contract for new Antioch Elementary School, Bell and Associates Construction, LP. D, recommended approval of change order number 4 for Madison Middle School renovations, Biskin Construction. E, recommended approval of change order number 7 for Rose Park Middle School renovations, Messer Construction Company. F, recommended approval of request number 6 for district-wide roof repairs, Hillwood High School, RSS Roofing Services and Solutions, LLC. G, recommended approval of request number 15 for district-wide maintenance, repairs, and general construction at Casa Azafran Pre-K Center, Southland Constructors, LLC. I, awarding of purchases and contracts. 1, ACT Inc. 2, Catapult Learning LLC. 3, CDW Government Incorporated. 4, Centerstone of Tennessee. 5, Dell Marketing LP. 5, requisitions. 6, Discovery Education Assessment LLC. 7, DK Brand Strategy. 8, Earthwalk Communications Incorporated. 9, Follett Corporation. 10, Genesis Learning Centers. 11, Heinemann, a division of Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. 12, Martha O'Brien Center, DBA Explore Community School. 13, NCS Pearson Incorporated. 14, Northwest Evaluation Association. 15, School Dude Incorporated. 16, Southern Regional Education Board. 17, Strive Collegiate Academy. 18, the Sherwin-Williams Company. J, textbook approval for behavioral and community health, principles of public health practice. K, textbook approval for IB music, music and appreciation. L, textbook approval for IB physics, physics for the IB diploma. M, textbook approval for IB sports, exercise and health science, IB sports, exercise and health science course book for the IB diploma. N, textbook approval for global logistics, supply chain management, a logistics perspective. O, textbook approval for social studies grades 5-8, discovery education, tech book, TM. P, legal settlement claim C31643 for $13,938.53. And that's it.
Madam Chair, I moved by Ms. Spearing. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Ms. Frobe. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? On to our pulled item, item H, amendment of lease agreement for Lipscomb University's use of the Stokes building. Will entertain a motion.
This agreement until we can hear from Mr. Edgens and the conversation that he's going to have about the lease agreement and the proposal with Metro Council for the use of that building and parking lot.
Thank you. Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any discussion? Nothing else you want to add? Okay. Item number 2, recommend approval of revisions for EE3, treatment of parents, students, and citizens. Ms. Frobe?
We approved Policy Governance Committee meeting, and I move that we approve EE3 as amended.
All right, you've heard the amendment, the motion for the amendment and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you, Ms. Frobe, for that work. I appreciate it. We got a little bit more to go. Number 3, resolution by the Metropolitan Nashville Board of Education to establish an English Learner Innovation Plan. Mr. Pinkston?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I have a few framing comments before we read the resolution. Should we do a motion first or and then set the table, or what's the?
We have make a motion for approval of the resolution.
Okay. I'd like to move for approval of the resolution that's in front of us to establish an English Learner Innovation Report to the board.
Approve and second, Mr. Pinkston.
Thank you. At our July 8th board meeting, I brought notice of intent to bring a motion to cause management to establish an English learner strategy for MNPS. Tonight, I'm advancing the motion in the form of this resolution that's in front of us. As many of you know, this has been on my mind for a while because as a board, we have not had a single conversation during the past 2 years about our English learner strategy. After asking the question for a couple of years straight, I think it's time for the board to assert some authority in this area on behalf of our new American families and their kids. Management has told us today that the board should not weigh in on this matter. I just want to say I disagree. Responsible school boards in districts with high percentages of English learners have an obligation to weigh in. As I looked around the country for school boards that are doing model work in this area, my attention quickly turned to the board and the school district that have been at this longer perhaps than anyone else. I am passing around a document that I think embodies the kind of work that we as a board should be doing. Sorry to pass around more paper. This is a document that was created by the board of the Los Angeles Unified School District. LAUSD is the second largest school system in the nation. They've been at this for decades, and they're still doing some of the most innovative work in the country. The document that's going around the table is LAUSD's board-led, emphasis on board-led, English Learner Master Plan, which I think provides a blueprint for effective board governance in this very specific area of public education. Again, the thing I like about it is it's board-led. The chair and the rest of the elected board members saw a need to be more responsive to the community. They took the lead in asking management to innovate and think creatively, and what emerged is a very comprehensive compass that guides that district's work. The plan was developed, I would add, in heavy and coherent collaboration with the community and leading experts and researchers from across the country. They did not just look inward, they looked outward for the very best thinking in America. So my original goal with the resolution was to ask for the development of a similar comprehensive plan, but earlier today I was told, again after 2 years of not hearing much, was told that Dr. Register and his team have already been developing a comprehensive plan, which is good since we're now more than a decade since Nashville emerged as an international gateway city. So taking them at their word, I did a quick rewrite of the resolution's operative clauses this afternoon to simply ask for them to deliver a comprehensive report to us in the near future and let us see how extensive and thorough their work has been or will be. So with that, I'd like to renew my motion, and should I read this resolution out loud?
If you'd like to read it in its entirety, go right ahead.
Thank you. A resolution by the Metropolitan Nashville Board of Public Education to develop an English Learner Innovation Report, whereas, this will take a couple of minutes, whereas the elected Metropolitan Nashville Board of Public Education, the board oversees Metro Nashville Public Schools, MNPS, the nation's 42nd largest school system with 83,000 students, and whereas the board's governing policies state that the board members will represent the interests and citizens of the entire school district, and that the job of the board is to represent the citizens and to lead the organization by determining and demanding appropriate and excellent organizational performance. And whereas the board believes that the quality of public education should not be determined by a student's race, ethnicity, linguistic background, or socioeconomic status, and whereas the board recognizes that student English language proficiency is a matter of access, equity, and social justice, and whereas the board is obligated to ensure that all MNPS students are proficient in English and master the academic content necessary to succeed in a career or college and life, and whereas MNPS enrolls approximately 11,945 non-English speaking students, or 27.7% of English learners in the state of Tennessee, according to the Tennessee Department of Education's report card. And whereas MNPS faces unique academic challenges, given the fact that English learners account for 14.7% of MNPS students, compared with the statewide average of 4.3%. And whereas the board recognizes the profound academic, moral, and social opportunities that can be realized by providing high-quality educational services to Nashville's youngest new Americans, and whereas the board admires the courage of English learners who are learning rigorous academic content while mastering a new language and in the process making significant linguistic and cultural contributions to MNPS and the community. And whereas the board values innovative instructional practices and other strategies that respect, affirm, and build upon the language and culture of every child. Therefore, be it hereby resolved, the board directs MNPS management to develop an English Learner Innovation Report, to the board, articulating guiding principles, identifying model instructional practices, developing effective family and community engagement initiatives, articulating budget and resource allocation needs, outlining emerging staffing, scheduling, and professional development strategies, and identifying other commitments and conditions necessary for MNPS to deliver the highest quality educational services to English learners. And be it further resolved, the board directs MNPS management to identify and engage national caliber expertise to assist in the development of the report, and within the report, identify and analyze English learner innovation efforts in other U.S. school systems in order to capture best practices. And finally, be it finally resolved, MNPS management shall deliver the report to the board no later than March 31st, 2015. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Ms. Shepherd?
So I was actually in attendance at the last Teaching and Learning Committee meeting that we had, and we had a lot of discussion around this particular topic, and a lot of Dr. Steele's staff was there. Kevin Stacy was there. He spoke at length, and I forget the young lady's name, and they are actually in the communities. They are vetting this entire process that they have. The document that we received earlier today was proof of that, as well as some of the comments that they shared with us. They're in the community, in the churches. They're vetting their process with different groups. They have already started the ambassador program for parents. They are going to have another group start in October. So it's not true that we haven't had this conversation, because we've had it just recently. So, I think that the comments provided earlier today by Dr. Steele and by Dr. Critchlow were very telling of how deeply they have gone quite honestly, I'm a little wary of the number of resolutions that we've had, because I think that we're talking too much and we're not supporting the work that is being done as we speak. So I'm thinking that, we really should be taking a deep dive into the information that they presented. It was a lot of good information that they had. And I don't think you were there, but it was a very good meeting with a lot of good information, both that day and then the further information that we got today.
Well, I mean, I think if your opinion is the board shouldn't weigh in on English learner strategy, then I think that's a legitimate opinion.
I didn't say that.
I think that one of the things I'm looking for, and particularly in that first operative clause, is a real meaningful articulation of the budget and resource allocation that's going to be necessary to really step up our game. The information that I've seen up to date has none of that information in it. I don't know if we have a shortage of EL certified teachers, if we need to be committing to longer school days in high EL percentage schools. What does that cost? We haven't seen any model instructional practices that have been validated by national experts put in front of us. I think there is a lot of good work going on, but I think they need to step up their game, and I think that's our role to encourage that and ask for that. The last thing is, I think one of the first questions that was asked in our onboarding retreat 2 years ago was, what U.S. school system is doing this better than anybody else in the country, and what can we do to learn from them and to emulate that work? And we're still waiting on an answer. So all we're doing is pushing for additional information and additional answers, and I think that's the responsible thing to do given where we stand.
Yes. I would like to ask Dottie Critchlow a question. Yeah, she's right there. Yeah. While Dottie's coming up to the podium, it seems to me like this fits with what we're doing. So I see it as a good thing rather than a bad thing. And the idea that we have, Will is asking for a report in 18 months, is that?
Not 18 months, March 31st.
March 31st, okay, so how many months is that?
6.
Okay, 6 months, okay. So is that possible? Could you produce a report that's got this material that's for distribution in 6 months?
We can produce a report, and I would almost ask for a little bit of a bigger window than 6 months, and here's the reason why. Our EL students are assessed on an annual assessment, and it will be the WIDA assessment, and that window is February and March. And that's when we really measure how much the children, or students, because they're older children as well, how much they've grown in their language proficiency. And the WIDA standards are different than what the ELDA standards were that we've used in the past. ELDA was more of a social language type measurement of how much the students have grown. WIDA is an academic, it assesses their academic language ability to think and articulate what they've learned. So we could be very happy to share with you what we've done by March, but to have a bigger picture of what's happening, and maybe we can come back with another report in June or July that would have that evidence, because those are the test scores that would really measure the effectiveness of our work.
So, Mr. Pinkston, are you willing to amend the date that's in here with your resolution?
On the earlier version of the resolution, it actually called for delivery on June 30th. During the rewrite, I moved it back because we were told that there had been already a significant amount of work done, but if we need to move it forward again to June 30th, I'd be fine with that.
So my question to you, and maybe you don't recall off the top of your head, how does this align with the calendar changes that we've made for reporting?
I don't know the answer to that. June 30th, is the end of the fiscal year is the way I think about that, because I really am really focused on the budget issues wrapped up in here and what's it going to take. And I'll expound for 10 more seconds. If we realize through this work and this analysis that this school system needs to commit significantly higher amounts of resources to this work, which I believe we do, let's put a number on that, and then let's use that to build the case with the next mayor, the Metro Council, and treat this with the kind of the level of value that it deserves. So I was thinking about it from a fiscal year perspective, but if we need to, even push it to into July.
I'm just trying to make sure that we get, because I think part of our goal with realigning the calendar was to make sure that we had opportunity for holistic insight into those.
Oh, okay. Oh,
that
you're
count.
talking about the agenda planning?
Yes.
Yeah, so we were supposed to actually hear about that issue at this meeting.
Oh, okay.
So we could scratch it and move it to,
You just want to move it to budget, so June.
yeah. I mean, I'd like to have ongoing conversations in teaching and learning, if that's acceptable, in other venues, but in terms of really pushing for the final delivery of a comprehensive plan and the budget, kind of the wraparound information that, and the wraparound budget information that we need, I think, going to the end of the fiscal years.
Madam Chair, I might ask Ms. Critchlow to mention the fact that the Council of Great City Schools has been involved in helping to make these programs better within Nashville. You asked for a national caliber expertise to work, and the Council of Great City Schools has been involved in helping our department.
I think, again, I don't see it as mutually exclusive. If you look at page 4 of the LA Unified plan, they've got a list in the right-hand column of some of the leading national researchers and experts in America who helped develop theirs. Council of Great City Schools is not on that list, but that's fine.
I haven't had a chance to read this. I have not.
Yeah, but I'm just pointing out, just because they've been talking to the Council of Great City Schools does not mean we've exhausted the amount of national caliber expertise that's out there.
It's not like we haven't done anything.
I didn't say that. I admire the work that's been done. I think we need to go farther faster.
So you're going to modify and then present for vote?
Sure. I'd like to modify my motion to change the delivery date on the report to June 30th, 2015, rather than March 31st, 2015. I submit that as a motion.
I second it.
Motion's been made to modify the date to the end of fiscal year, June 30th, 2015. All in favor?
Aye.
Amy had a question.
This is just a vote on the date? I'm confused.
No. This is another, we got another open motion. This is just a date.
Just a date, okay.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we still got the bigger motion, so you can still speak to that.
Okay, the only thing that gives me pause is this, the second, be it further resolved, about engaging national caliber expertise. That's not, I mean, I'm assuming that we're not going to, that doesn't mean that they have to contract with any particular entity. I mean,
not any particular entity, but it could mean that if management decides they've identified some expert capacity that's worth hiring, that.
Okay, but they're not required to hire an outside, because it directs it to identify and engage sort of broad, so maybe they could have the conversation and then.
Yeah, engage is a generic word. So for example, Dr. Brianna mentioned the Council of Great City Schools. We already receive technical assistance and capacity from them through our existing membership. And there may be other organizations that fit that bill. For that matter, the board may want to ask MNPS to look at resources that NSBA might have available. So engage is generic, could mean lots of things.
Okay.
Anything else?
Ready to vote.
All right. So ready for the vote? So all in favor of the resolution with the change to the dates? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Ayes have it. So when do you bring it back for, clean it up and bring it back for signature next meeting?
I will ask Ms. Bobo to update the date, and we'll bring back the hard copy at the next meeting for signatures.
And may I just add a comment? Once we pass a resolution like that, like this, I would like to request that it be put into our policies.
Well, that's two different discussions, and that needs to go through the governance committee, and we figure out how we do that.
I think it's according to Robert's Rules of Order.
It's not automatic. We have to update the policies, and it has to be reflected in the policies. This doesn't make it a policy because it's a resolution. So we need to come up with the appropriate process to do that, so that it is a policy if we so choose to make it one. Because you have to understand, we have to be very careful with policies. This document is date bound. So you're going to put something in here that is no longer an effective policy once July 1 of 2015 hits. Great. So we just need to come up with a way, and maybe if there's a policy, an amendment to an existing policy that speaks stronger to EL. So we just need to figure out what's the best way to do that to keep the spirit of this going. Next we have director's reports.
Madam Chair, I'll move to the podium if I may. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. You have handouts that accompany the remarks that I will make tonight on our priority schools in Metropolitan Nashville Public Schools. Since the new priority list of schools was released by the state a few weeks ago, we have not had the opportunity to address system and school level accountability results with the board and particularly with new board members. There are many bright spots for the district in performance this year. MNPS was in the state's Achieve category for overall achievement for the third straight year. District increases in proficiency in 2014 significantly exceeded statewide results in most areas, including reading language arts, math and science in grades 3 through 8. MNPS value-added gains ranked in the top 5% of Tennessee districts for reading and math in grades 4 through 8 and high school English 1 and English 2, with English 2 growth being the highest in the state. District achievement gaps were smaller than statewide average for all 16 subgroup measures reported in the state accountability results. And the number of focus or achievement gap schools declined from 13 to 9. The number of MNPS schools identified as reward schools increased from 12 to 18. However, the issue in the spotlight tonight is the fact that the number of priority schools in MNPS has risen over the past 3 years. Priority schools are the bottom 5% in achievement in the state. That's a number of schools in the state that are in the bottom 5%. Since the new list has been released, we as a staff have been intensely focused on reviewing all data available on our low-performing schools and beginning a pathway to eliminate priority schools in the district. My goal is to set the table for you as a new board with an audacious goal. Within 3 years, Metropolitan Nashville Public Schools should have 0 priority schools. We can achieve this goal, but not with a business-as-usual attitude. I am reminded of the words of former Mayor Phil Bredesen, who is credited with great progress in Nashville at a critical time. He called for a third-way approach to problems of public policy, a call to address the big challenges of the day, not from a position of partisan politics or traditionally entrenched philosophies. He called for an approach that was about bold, smart, common sense problem solving. At this time, the public schools, the board, and the community need to embrace a philosophy of finding the third way. Frankly, this concept of a third way, a different path, is what compelled me to address the Education Committee of Metro Council 60 days ago. So, where have we come in the past 3 years? In 2011, MNPS had 9 schools on the first priority list, and that's the top handout that you have. 1 year later, the state reset the list and 3 schools moved off the list. Smithson Craighead Middle School closed and 2 schools moved off the list for performance. This year, the priority list was reset. And you can see the handout, page 2, and 2 additional schools improved to move off the list, Graymar and John Early. It's important to go back and point out that in 2010, Cameron Middle School was on the brink of state takeover. MNPS and Lee Charter Schools developed cooperatively a plan to transform Cameron. It worked. Both Cameron Prep and Cameron Middle, this last year was the last year for us to operate grades in the school, both are identified as rewards schools this year. the last year of that transition. This transition model, developed for Cameron, became the model for the most successful ASD school, Achievement School District school in the state, and a model for the ESD to use. That school is Brick Church Middle, and it's working. In 2011, MNPS initiated the Innovation Zone approach to turnaround. That's our turnaround strategy, which also became the state model for turnaround strategy, and every school in the I-Zone made gains. You have a chart that shows that. Now with the new priority list, some priority schools made progress, but did not rise above the bottom 5% level, while 5 others declined. So where must we head to achieve that goal of no priority schools? First, we must broaden our turnaround focus. Not only should we look at the lowest 5% statewide, but also at the lowest 25% of our schools in MNPS. It's not okay for that next cut to make minimum progress and perhaps even slip into the lowest 5%, which is what happened in some cases this year. You have a handout that shows that. We've really identified 3 strategies that we want to propose to you, and don't get nervous, we're not proposing any action tonight. It's the beginning of a discussion that we need to have over the next few months. We've really identified 3 strategies that take us to the third way. First, turnaround efforts for low-performing schools must focus on 3 fundamental elements. Great leaders. We must have school principals who are highly effective. They must be innovative, aggressive, and have skills needed to turn schools around. In fact, this has to be step 1 in the turnaround process. We cannot create great schools without great leaders. Secondly, great teachers. We must recruit and support highly effective teachers in these schools. All teachers must be high performers in schools that are low performing. We must consider incentives and other strategies to recruit and support the best teachers in every classroom, no exceptions. And thirdly, to provide an effective district support team. The Office of Innovation is not enough to provide this support by itself. It must be all hands on deck. Second, we must consider transition and conversion strategies. You have already approved a conversion charter with KIP. Identifying a priority school for this conversion is the next step. We also must collaborate with the ASD. The ASD has already indicated a move to take over 1 or more schools in MNPS next year. Chris Barbick and I have had more than one conversation about a transition strategy involving a partnership between the ASD and MNPS. We expect to come to agreement shortly on 1 middle school transition to the ASD for next year. It will be a lead school with a similar approach to that taken at Cameron. Finally, we must develop an East Nashville corridor strategy. You have several handouts on schools of the Maplewood and Stratford cluster and a locator map for these schools. Please consider these factors. There are 27 schools in this geographic area with more startups approved. This corridor has a very high percentage of choice schools, magnet schools and charter schools, and they are all achieving schools. There is an excess capacity in the geographic area, an excess capacity of seats. There is a concentration of low-performing schools in the area, priority schools and schools that fall in the bottom 25%. These are zone schools. Many parents make choices among charter and magnet schools and leave zone schools, leaving high concentrations of underserved children in some zone schools. The successful magnet schools, choice schools, and charter schools in East Nashville are all in high demand. Therefore, I propose that we convert the East Nashville corridor to an all-choice zone. One step will be to hold a series of community meetings with parents like those who spoke tonight to discuss choice options for all students in the corridor. An all-choice zone would contain all successful schools, with every parent in East Nashville having choices among high-performing zone schools, charter schools, or magnet schools. A second component of the East Nashville strategy would require a partnership with charter providers in the area. We must consider converting 1 or 2 priority schools to successful charters, including that collaboration with the ASD for a transition school. We must also ask for full partnership among charter providers in the no default choice proposal. We must have open doors in all schools for all who apply. Talks have begun and will continue this week in our next collaborative meeting. And finally, we must consider the option of closing and consolidating low-performing schools in the zone. Memphis closed 11 priority schools this past year. That's the reason why a number of ours fell into the bottom 5%. We cannot continue business as usual with low-performing schools when we have excess capacity in the area. Of course, there's much to do to finalize this plan for approval, but the urgency to effectively eliminate priority schools in Nashville is now. We've already begun with leadership changes in some schools. We are prepared to move quickly so that the complete plan is developed and being implemented before the end of this school year. I look forward into digging further into the data and problem solving with the board, and to engaging parents and community with issues to be addressed in East Nashville. I also look forward to a climate of collaboration and creative problem solving with our charter and ASD colleagues and with our parents and community members in East Nashville. Together, a unified education community with our great Nashville community as a whole, we will reach our goal of 0 priority schools in Nashville. I think this is extremely important and very urgent. Thanks for listening, and I'll be glad to entertain questions.
Thank you, Dr. Brasher. Questions? Starting this in. So, is it on? Okay. So here's my concern, I guess. What I'm hearing is that we're solving a lot of these problems through choice. And we know that children of engaged parents tend to perform better in school, so once you make a school a choice school, you're going to have a different population slightly. And even a conversion school is the same, because if you're converting a school to a charter school, it's converted grade by grade, and the parents still have to make the choice. It's a little different than, I think, a charter school that opens, new. My concern is that if we're trying to solve the problem through only choice, or primarily choice, you are still going to be abandoning those children whose parents are not able to make the choice, and so we're going to still have a lot of students who could potentially be left behind. And my concern is that I don't want us to create a frenzied rush to compete for spots at different schools for the parents that make the choice, and then leave some children in the less desirable schools. And so, and I also don't want to increase the likelihood that we have some schools that are serving the larger populations of difficult to educate students, challenging to educate, or more expensive to educate students. So I would just propose that we also look very seriously at some initiatives to address poverty that provide support to the families who are low income, that we're offering community services, wraparound services for those schools, so that the children whose parents don't make the choice, who are usually the most vulnerable students in our population, are not left behind.
Thank you very much, and I think you make a very important point, and the fact is that we have some schools that serve a high percentage of children whose parents have not made choices. We pursued a policy with a 2009 zoning plan that we dubbed a no default choice program. And we literally reached every parent and had a conversation with every parent in the Pearl Cone cluster about rezoning, and every parent in that cluster actually made a choice. What we're proposing in East Nashville is the same approach. We want to have meaningful conversations with every parent in every community and let them know what choices are available. The goal is for every parent to know what options there are for their children, for their needs, and that might be the community school. And I think that's really important. I put good zone schools first on the list for a reason. But the point is, every child in East Nashville needs the opportunity to choose a school that is a high-performing school. And I think that when you look at the maps that we've been given, that I've given you, is that there are 27 schools in East Nashville. They're very close to each other. We have a very dense population. There are more choice schools in that area than there are anywhere else. And what's happening now, the dynamic now is that there are schools that serve that population of underserved children, and they are low-performing schools. Normal methods, normal actions will not turn those schools around. So we've got to look at doing it a different way, and that is to demand that all schools in that area be high-performing schools, and we want to engage parents in conversations about what choices they have. And we need to look at conversions, and we need to look at consolidations. And I heard a comment, I think from one of the parents that spoke earlier, about pathways. Pathways are very important. And we're very proud of Stratford High School, and we're investing $20 million in it now to reform it. And we have a great pathway already started from potentially from Dan Mills to Lytton to Stratford High School. I would like to see us look at K-12 pathways as a part of this choice program. Another example I can use is that we have East High School is very much in demand and has a waiting list. It would be terrific if we could create K-12 pathways so that students had an opportunity to get into the Paideia program there and stay in that program through 13 years in school. So when we look at the fact that we have extra capacity in the area, we have small schools in the area, we have schools that are losing enrollment on a regular basis, the point is that we need to take a bigger look at what's happening in that whole area and to develop pathways where every parent makes a choice, has choices among good schools. And I think a lot of those will end up being neighborhood schools. The question about selectivity is really important. And this is where, when we have as many charter schools as we have in the area, where we have to collaborate to have an open door policy. No rejects, no saying no. One of the problems, and you've got a graph that shows this, is mobility. Mobility is a concern, and it's not finger pointing or not saying this school's putting out more kids than this school, or this school's accepting kids and this one's not. The point is, when children jump schools, when children move from school to school 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times a year, their academic achievement goes down. In East Nashville, the geographic area is relatively small. We're looking at ways to provide transportation so children in all of East Nashville would not have to move, so that they would stay. And that's an expectation. That's an expectation of zone schools. It's an expectation of our choice schools, the magnet schools that we have, the no zone schools that we have there. And it would be an expectation of the charter schools in the area to look at this. And I know that I'm laying a lot on you, but I think now is the time when we have to start taking action. The turnaround strategies are sound. They can be implemented this year. We cannot wait until next year We cannot spend this year developing a plan and then wait till next year to implement it. We need to start now. We need to look at the quality of leadership. We need to look at the quality of teachers. We need to change those if we have to, or we need to provide a support system for those if we have to, beginning now. The development of a choice zone where every parent would be able to choose the school that they choose for their children, every parent in that area, takes planning time. Can we do it if we start now for another year? Yes, but it takes a lot of planning time and a lot of lead time. And what I'm proposing to you is that we spend the next few months looking at the feasibility of that and developing the planning.
I want to expand a little bit on my colleagues' comments. I think that one of the key points that we need to remember and keep forefront is the partnering with our charter operators, because I think that if we do that, I think that we'll be very successful. I really do. I think that if we keep that laser focus with those operators, because obviously they're doing a lot of things right, and so we need to make sure that we can replicate what they're doing right for our zone schools. And I think
Absolutely.
it would be a good idea.
Absolutely.
Choice, and to Amy's point, the parents who may not be as involved or may be left at a particular school, how are we, and I'm sure you've given thought to this, how are we as a district going to make that school that parents are tending to leave, so wonderful that there'll be more choice? More parents will choose that particular school.
Well, I think we can't leave any schools alone, and that's why it's very important to, when you look at the map, to look at not only the schools that are marked in red, but also the schools that are marked in yellow. The bottom 25% of our schools does not have student achievement scores that we really want. We want to raise all of those. So we have to develop a strategy that really raises performance level in all schools at a much faster pace. That's the issue. We've been making some progress. We've been making progress. Right now, the average growth per year expected for priority schools is 8% improvement a year, 8 percentage points improvement a year. Some of our schools have made progress, but they haven't kept up with that standard. So we will never work out of the bottom 5% or the lowest performing schools if we don't make some changes in the way we do business. And as I outlined before, there are several ways to do that. One's to develop the transition plan. That's a part of your plan in the charter approval process. Develop that transition plan. Look for partners who will take on the turnaround strategies that may have a different approach that can work for us. But we also have to look at, for our zone schools, we have to look at the way we are providing support in the quality of leadership and the quality of teachers. And I think we have to look at incentives. We have to look at a recruitment effort to recruit high-performing leaders to these schools. We have to be take a very hard look at present leadership, and if it needs to change, we need to make those changes. We've got 3 years worth of data now to look at that, not quick decisions. Each plan needs to be, though, tailor-made for each one of these schools. There's not a cookie-cutter model. What works for one won't work for another. So we have to do a really good job of data analysis. I've shared just a little bit with you of the data that we've gathered so far. There's a lot more. As we go forward, we need to develop an individual plan for every one of these schools on this list, and it will look different for different schools. The other thing that we have to do is we have to look at capacity in this area, and we have to look at enrollment trends. If we have schools that are losing large numbers of students, we need to deal with that. We have what we have in this area. We've got a lot of schools. We've got a lot of charter schools that are opened in this area, that have opened over the years. And so rather than pointing fingers at them, let's involve them, engage them in a process of finding a way to eliminate low-performing schools in East Nashville and to give every child, to not leave any of them alone at some of those hard schools. And I think we can develop a plan that can do that. I think anything short of that doesn't get us to our goal. No parent wants their child to be in a low-performing school. The other side of that is we want all of our children to succeed, and we need to develop a strategy that allows us to do that.
And I like the fact that you're going to be involving the parents and the communities right away. When will these community meetings begin?
We will begin scheduling those. We may have one next week, Ms. Spearing. I'm not sure, but there will be a whole series of those. We're also looking at our community and family engagement specialists. We're going to do a really strong outreach. And we have some people that have been brought on to really engage parents and to help principals engage communities in their schools so that we can do a big outreach. Now, let me say this. All of our priority schools are not in East Nashville, and you can see that. I've given you a larger map that shows all the priority schools in the district and all of the bottom 25%. You can see that there is a concentration in Maplewood and Stratford, but there's also there's a large concentration in North Nashville. I think we are not neglecting that. I think that there is a special approach that we should take in East Nashville, given the number of charter schools and choices that we have there.
Hold on. So, Ms. Pierce? Ms. Kim?
Oh, yeah, sure. So there's so much in my head, but one thought is, first of all, I appreciate the fact that we're thinking bold, that the notion of the third way is intriguing, because it helps us get out of potentially calcified mindsets while pressing forward. And I do think it is an urgent situation because we have thousands and thousands and thousands of kids, literally, in these schools on this list and in this data set. So thank you for the data. It's good to be reminded. One thought, Dr. Register, is that change is really, really hard, and it's very human, I think, to resist change. We know this. And my thought on all of this is that, and also this is partly driven by that knowledge of just like how we as humans just interact with change, how difficult it is. But then also part of my general philosophy of life, which is just to anchor on what's possible. And I would just ask that throughout this entire process that we really demonstrate to lots of people and show lots of people really what is possible for all of our children. Because I don't know if any of you all had this experience before, where sometimes you're just in an isolated moment. I was on the portal to seeing school by school results, and I remember just checking school by school, just probably like lots of people do. I'm like, oh wow, they got 4 points of growth this year. And I'm thinking, oh, that's good, that's good. And then the next one, I'm like, oh, they got 6. So I'm thinking, that's good too. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, wait, there's a school that got 33 points of growth. And that all of a sudden changes your entire conception of what's possible. Because even me, and I have enormously high expectations for us, for our kids, for everybody. And yet even I was like, someone did that? And then I see another one that's like, wait, that's another one that's 30 plus points. There's another one that's 28. There's another one that's 27. And I think that is going to be really critical in all of this. Because if you're in the silo and you're just looking at one piece of data in isolation, I think it prevents us from seeing actually the enormous bright spots that exist out there and what is possible for our children if we're willing to make the hard decisions, we're willing to do the hard work, to be disciplined in the execution and all of that. And so I think, and it also is just spiritually, frankly, more fulfilling. To know that is what we're gunning for. That is possible for our kids. My child who's in this school or all the kids of East Nashville. And so you mentioned just really briefly, I would love for you just to talk a little bit more as just one example of a Cameron. because we do have a track record of doing this, to your point. I think it's important for us to also illustrate that. Again, so a lot of this stuff, I know you don't disagree with any of this. Mostly I'm just saying that, you know, I think it's just an important piece of it, is to make sure that we cast that vision, we show what's actually possible, because people will anchor, I think, on that, and think bigger and better for their kids as a result, if we're able to do that well. So I'd love to hear more about, you know, maybe not now, I know that we probably don't have time, but like the Camerons of the world, the various turnaround efforts that you've already engaged in where we did see success, and at some point it might be good to paint the picture of what was, you know, what in fact happened there. So that's just a few thoughts. And then also, I love the notion of course, engaging our parents and students directly throughout the process, because I know that while these are very high-level plans, I know that, you know, there's a lot of details we work out. There's a lot of things that we're going to learn that's going to inform, you know, the actual path that we take. So I think it's smart that we would go forth and engage the community. So thank you for working that in.
Quick response to Cameron, if I may. Cameron's a success story. And the reason it's a success story is because that was a cooperatively developed approach between LEAD, charter school, and MNPS. And now, 4 years later, not only did LEAD implement a grade at the time, a school that's been recognized as a reward school, but so did our grades as we aged out improve. And that cooperation and collaboration and joint planning and joint working together is really the third way. You know, that's really what we're talking about. Let's make it work together. Now, I'll say this. The Achievement School District took over Brick Church Middle, and we didn't have as much collaboration with the ASD as we had with Lead and Cameron. And Brick Church is coming along nicely now, but it struggled more, and particularly for our grades. As the Achievement School District can take one or more of these priority schools without our collaboration. That's the wrong way to do it. And that's what Chris Barbick and I have talked about. The fact that we need to cooperatively decide where it makes sense and where it works. So the ASD has a contract with LEAD to do a middle school. And that's what we're looking at. And we have middle schools that are in need of transformation, and we've got a proven success record. So I think I think that's how we have to tailor-make how we address individual school problems, how we develop the collaboration, how we work with our charter partners in East Nashville, because there's so many of them. It doesn't make sense to me when we have 9 charter schools in this area to ignore them or throw rocks at them. Doesn't make sense at all. We need to develop a partnership and learn from them and work together. And that's what I propose for East Nashville. It might not come together. You know, all choice is a big, ambitious goal for a whole segment of our community. But I think it's worth a try, because I would like to see us be able to say next year that every child in East Nashville will be served in a school that is not considered a priority school. And in 2 or 3 years, every child in East Nashville and their parents will be able to choose a school and attend a school that is not in the lower 25% in our district.
I'm devastated that this proliferation of priority schools happened on this board's watch. And Dr. Etcher, I'm pretty familiar with the third way. I can assure you it was not a device to dismiss legitimate criticism, as you call it, partisan politics. It was about fundamentally changing the conversation, which actually is not what's happening here yet. The fact is, choice has been around in this community for 2 decades or more. And we've known for years that all of this really just boils down to great teachers and leaders. So while I agree absolutely with everything you're saying, I think we're obligated to point out here what you're telling us tonight, no priority schools. You actually told us over the last couple of years, and that we would see a decline or no schools on this year's list, and instead we've seen them more than double. So I've got 3 basic questions. The first one is, what happened? Why did we not see this coming? The second is why should we be convinced that the organizational capacity now exists to do what we should have been doing already? 4 of these schools were on the list before. And finally, you mentioned utilizing charter capacity as a solution, which you and I articulated last year as a quote-unquote policy. But the one thing we haven't talked about here is other types of turnaround solutions. Where is the capacity? Where else are you looking in America to identify the expertise to help turn around these schools and not just turn them over to somebody else to deal with?
So the basic turnaround strategy is great teachers and great leaders in schools, but we demonstrate, when you look at the performance, that choice schools in this area are working. And I don't think that that's just the result of all the good kids leaving some schools. We don't have good kids and bad kids. We got kids, and we got to educate them all. And so it's a school-by-school look at what's not working. We've had success, and I gave you some of the success points that we have in this district, and we've had some success with turnaround. But we have not, and I agree with you, we have not been successful as we need to be with our lowest performing schools. And this is a first attempt to discuss a different way of doing this so that we can turn those schools around. And I think it's a good start, whether you do or not.
Do you think the organizational capacity exists here to do it?
I think the organizational capacity is building, and where we do not have the organizational capacity to do it, we'll look for outside help. For example, national recruitment for high-performing principals. I think we have to look at recruitment incentives to bring in the right people. We have to look to our charter organizations to help us find the right people and to look for the right characteristics. To double down on a recruitment incentive for teachers, and we're doing pretty good with that. We had 12,000 applications this year for 700 positions, and we recruited from a lot of good places. Did we recruit enough diversity? No. We need to double down on that, but we need to get that plus high-performing teachers. And one strategy that we've discussed is a strategy to look for a turnaround specialist or outside consultants to help us more fully develop the turnaround strategy. Mr. Coverstone and the Office of Innovation started a few years ago when we had 4 charter schools. And since then, we've grown to 19, and next year we'll have 25. And one department working with 25 charter schools and overseeing that, and also running the iZone, is not the capacity to do what we need to do. So it is all hands on deck. That's why all major players in our entire organization are working on this effort now, twice a week since the priority school list came out. So we're developing the capacity, and we'll find those places where we don't have it and look for that on a national basis.
Madam Chair, we spent, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, an hour and a half debating a single non-existent school in a special meeting. I'd like to put on the table for discussion, maybe at the retreat, that we build a special meeting or 2 or 3 to uniquely focus on turnaround schools. I think we've got, spend a lot of time talking about schools that don't even exist, and here we've got 14 that do exist and need our help. So if we could think about committing some unique, dedicated time for doing this, I'd like to do that.
Ms. Pierce? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Excited about this direction, and I know, not having been on the board, but sitting in the boardroom and watching, I know the last 2 years there's been a lot of focus and a lot of conversation on some of our choice schools that are doing well. So I do appreciate that change in attention and demeanor and looking for working together. And one thing I saw a video on that was on the news not too long ago was Spring Branch, Texas does a lot of co-locating with charters where the community school can still exist for those parents who may want to still keep that intact, but there was shared practices back and forth. I know some of the teachers were taking over some of the core subjects. I hope we can include some of that and talk about that, but they also mingled with their related arts. And it seemed to be very successful. It was an exciting approach to look at, and hope we can consider that as well.
I do agree with Mrs. Froeg that outreach and parental involvement is important, but I would also say that we have schools that are performing well, and they're working with children who are affected by poverty. So I would say we also listen to some of those people and determine what practices they're using that are working with those children who are struggling with poverty. Also, I would reach out to some of our great teachers who are working with children that are doing extremely well and they're struggling with poverty. Also, I would like to know what is the time frame for turning around, and if you don't mind defining immediately.
Within weeks, next week after next, we're going. The first thing to consider in the turnaround strategies that I've seen that have been successful, if you're talking about turning around low-performing schools, is to look at leadership. What leadership's there and what support systems are there. We need to look at the leadership. Is it aggressive? Is it bold? Is it smart? Do the leaders in the schools have the capacity to do this work, which is very difficult? Some of those leaders may need to change now. Some may need to change at the end of this school year. We don't know, and there is no identified list or plan now to do that. The point about the immediacy of this thing is this. It's the beginning of a school year. We've got time now to make changes this year that can affect improvement in these schools. We've got time now to deal with teachers that might not be adequately performing. And when I say deal with them, I mean help them improve or give them opportunities to go other places and do other things. I think now we have to do that. Our data's in for last year. We have test data. We have data that we need. Let's look at the performance of our people in our schools and pay attention to that. The other side of that is we need to recruit outstanding teachers. Turnaround schools cannot do that if they don't have a staff of outstanding teachers, and we have to recruit and find those people and bring them in. And we have to provide the support system. So all of those things can be put into place. Is there a longer range planning? Of course there is. We need to think about what happens next year. We need to think about what happens beyond that. But putting the plan in place now and having it ready to implement this year or moving into next year is the key to success, I think, and allows us not to delay any longer.
One last thing I would like to say is that as leaders, we're obligated to do something last year when priority schools were increasing. So change is difficult, but anything that we can do immediately, I think, makes all the difference in the world and in the lives of our children.
Thank you, Ms. Hunter. Back around, Ms. Froeg.
It's a while back, and people have already addressed some of these. But first of all, I will say what I always say when we talk about charter schools. Charter schools are different in that they are self-selective. They often have extra funding from investors, and they reserve the right to release children who are not a good fit for their model. So they are neither in.
All right, okay. Please. I want to use my gavel not for that for the first time.
So they are neither inherently good or bad. They are just different than other schools. I think it's difficult to compare when you're looking at charter schools and traditional schools that are just simply so different. And have different demographics, all kinds of different. You can't just say the solution is just to turn them all over to charter schools. So what I'm hearing is that we're willing to sort of hand over these struggling schools to independent operators. But what I haven't heard, and this is what concerns me, and this is what Ms. Hunter has also emphasized, is that we really don't have a plan in place to deal with some of the poverty issues where we know there's a school at Kirkpatrick, something like that, where you have a very high population of low-income children. You have a lot of challenges there. We've got programs like Community Achieves. I would love to see us expand that so we know the kids are coming to school with health care, with food, with glasses if they need them, with coats, whatever they need to do to be successful in school. And then what I also am not hearing is that I don't see any plans in place to support the work of groups like this tonight, who are doing that really hard community building work to support the schools. And I think we really need to be behind these groups that are willing to do that at the schools that take every kid that walks in the door. We can support our charters too, and we should, but we also need to make sure we're supporting those schools, not because they're neighborhood or community schools, because these are the schools that take every kid. So that I would hope that we look beyond just choice. Choice is great for a lot of families, but we need to be doing a lot more. So,
yes.
So Dr. Rogers, I want to interrupt you before you respond, because we could probably talk about this all night, and we all have lots of passions around this, and as we've had conversations under different umbrellas about this, we've all agreed that getting schools off of the priority list is number one priority of several others that this board needs to address over the coming year. Mr. Pinkston has asked and suggested, which I think is an excellent idea, that as we gather for our retreat on Saturday, we start talking about how we walk through fleshing out a lot of the questions and concerns that have been raised here that probably do not exist right now on the piece of paper and document that Dr. Register has in front of him. And so we can't hold him to off-the-cuff and off-the-fly responses to some of our concerns, as valid and definitely important and significant as they are. I suggest that we capture those, and when we get to the retreat, we need to document that and make it clear that this is what we would like to see in the plan. When we get regular reporting on how this plan is developing and fleshing out, those are the questions we want to see addressed, and those are the plans and strategies we want to see fleshed out and fully articulated in the plan. So Dr. Register, I thank you very much for your report. I thank you for getting started in this effort. We will document after the retreat how we would like to work together and proceed forward to grow and develop the plan and start implementation, and put dates. I'll say it for the third time, and put dates on the milestones within that plan, and then we can begin to do our role as a board, which was highlighted for us today in our director's evaluation meeting, to monitor the things that we expect to see come out of the district. Thank you,
Thank you very much for listening.
Next, we have committee reports. We have governance. Amy? Ms. Froh, sorry.
Meeting, we did vote on EE3 on some changes to that, which we've approved tonight, and we did make progress on updating and fine-tuning our yearly agenda. We have another policy governance meeting coming up at our board retreat this coming Saturday, which will be at the Martin Center between 9 and 4 o'clock. And the time for the actual policy governance meeting has yet to be determined, but we will be sending that out publicly soon. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next, we have teaching and learning. Ms. Spearing?
Yes, thank you. Is my microphone on?
Okay. Microphone on. It's on.
We had a teaching and learning committee meeting on August the 13th for 2.5 hours, and 6 board members were there: Amy Froh, Joanne Brannon, Anna Shepard, Lisa Kim, and myself, and Thais Hunter was there. And we began a discussion of the achievement gains that we have accomplished so far, and it's clear that we have a lot more to accomplish. I think it's important to note that achievement is important. It's one indicator in terms of the achievement test score, but it's only one indicator. And if we only look at our students' achievement, our students' success, if we only frame it by looking at how did they do on the TCAP test, we have a narrow focus, and we need to have, I think, a composite of many indicators that indicate or that demonstrate the success that our kids are making. Jay Steele and Dottie Critchlow changed the EL leadership team in November of 2013, and that team consequently developed a new plan. And Kevin Stacy presented that plan at the Teaching and Learning Committee meeting, and he presented information on the new plan that utilizes the voices of teachers and parents. And the first advisory committee was held in May. First teacher advisory committee was held in May, and the parent advisory committee is scheduled for October the 2nd. The executive council is being formed now. Is that right, Jay? And that they will meet in the fall, I suspect. Okay. I'm really pleased to see that parents and teachers and community members are part of this this plan, and to get their input is vital. Since implementing the plan, our EL scores have risen by 3%, and this reverses a 4-year decline in EL growth scores. Although there has been improvement in math, unfortunately, the reading scores are pretty flat. So I think the next step is to bring in Tammy Lipsey and that whole her whole department to begin working on how our literacy team can support our EL students. Tammy presented about the comprehensive literacy plan, which I love, and she talked about the new reading program that integrates reading and writing. We have 30 this year new reading interventionists, 25 reading recovery teachers, and they not only do reading recovery, but they also teach literacy groups, and they teach approximately 50 to 60 students over the course of the year. We also have 23 school-based reading clinics, and these are in our lowest performing schools. In terms of teacher recruitment, this year we hired 840 teachers and certified staff with over 12,000 applications. 20% of our new hires were male, and this is a positive. When you compare it nationally, there are only 17% of our teachers that are males in the teaching force. 50% of our new hires came from Tennessee, and 45% came from out of state. The local universities that we pulled from this year was 89 from TSU, 69 from TFA, 67 from Vanderbilt, 66 from MTSU, 48 from Lipscomb, 42 from UTK, 36 from Trevecca, and 28 from Belmont. Nationally, 15% of our teachers leave after the first year of teaching in the classroom. 30% leave within the first 3 years, and 50% leave within the first 5 years. This year, we retained 85% of our teaching staff. 56% of our TFA teachers stayed a third year, which I was thrilled about too. 15% of our teachers left this year, and that included 759 teachers. Of those, 18% were non-renewed, 35% resigned, and 43% retired with our wonderful incentive retirement package. In terms of teacher compensation, we've hit on that a little bit tonight. Shelby County offers a higher beginning salary, and their average teacher salary is higher than ours. Knox County and Williamson County offer higher salaries with years of experience and advanced degrees. I think this is important to note here that we need to invigorate and our step raises. We haven't given teachers a step raise in the last 2 years. When we looked at comparable urban districts, DC was $10,000 ahead of us in terms of new teacher salary. And in respect to the average teacher salary, DC was also, and Denver topped us. Teacher benefits were better in Williamson County, Rutherford County, and Hamilton County. So I'm glad to know that we're going to be thinking about that as we change the conversation with our compensation for teachers and benefits. Our next meeting will be September 17th from 2:30 to 5, and we have meetings scheduled also in October and November. So every month for the rest of the year except December, and October will be October the 15th, November the 12th, and they'll all be from 2:30 to 5. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much for that report. Okay. Yes, there is a board chair's report. If you think I was going to let you get away without hearing something from me today. So I'm sure you all already know this because this is just a wealth of useful information, that today is Leo Tolstoy's birthday, 186 years old. Hope he's doing well. But I won't present you with another version of War and Peace, I promise you. So as many of you obviously know by now, I work at HCA. And one of the, and I think I've shared this around the board table before, that one of the stories that we're told as new employees as a part of our orientation, and I don't know if it's anecdotal or if it's made up just to get me all excited, but it works. And it's a story that's told that allegedly one day Dr. Frist walked into one of our hospitals and encountered one of the housekeeping staff and asked that person, "What do you do? What do you do here at the hospital?" And that individual's response was, "I save lives. I'm here to take care of patients, and I save lives." The comment, as that was shared, and he was just very shocked by it, is that with everyone there, whether it was the janitor, or they worked in housekeeping, was it a nurse, if it was a radiology tech, whether they worked in transport services, when the question was asked, the response was the same. I take care of patients. I'm here to help save lives. When I look around this board table, and I've had conversations with several of you out there, I've said it to anyone that have asked, that I've been impressed, and even with the addition of the 2 new board members, you get included in this, with the myriad of backgrounds that we bring to the table, the variety of experiences and talents, and be they former educators, we're parents, we have worked in government, we work in corporate, we work for nonprofits, we work in human resources. We bring such a wealth of passion and diversity of thought that it was always my belief that as a board, as a unit, as an entity, that we could accomplish anything. It has been the consummate struggle is identifying what that thing is. So I challenge each of us that if you're ever asked what it is you do on the board, is that you're here to ensure a quality education for all 83,000 of us. I don't care what the background is that you bring. I don't care what district it is that you represent. I offer the same challenge to central office staff. Don't care where you work, whether you're in communications, whether you're in transportation, whether you work in a school, whether you work in a body shop, that you are here to help guarantee and ensure a quality education for 83,000 students. And it's obviously challenging. And one of the main reasons, and Ms. Froeg and I have had this conversation before, and Mr. Sanders actually brought it up, is that when our kids walk into our classrooms and into our schools, they come with a myriad of other issues and concerns and a lot of baggage that has nothing, it would never put it in a category of education. There are social issues, there are health issues, there are family issues, there are lack of family issues, there are parental issues. And with that being the case, between the board, the central office staff, the other piece of that puzzle, the other on that three-legged stool, has to be the community at large. And when I say community at large, I don't mean just parents, I don't mean just the nonprofits that support us, I don't mean just the businesses that support us, but the other aspects of metro government as well. Without that concept and that implementation of wraparound services, we're going to continue to flounder. If you were to draw a picture of a child and color in what portion of that is classroom time, what portion of that is the educational experience, you're going to have over 50% of that left with regards to other aspects of their lives that they experience outside of the classroom, but that are brought to us for us to address. And so I don't present these things as aspects of them, of those of our children that are issues to ignore, or issues to say that are not in our bailiwick, but are issues for us to acknowledge and do our part in establishing the relationships and the supports that we need to help to address these issues with our students. The last thing that I'll say is that I hope everybody at this table has swollen ankles and hurt knees and painful lower backs from carrying the weight of 83,000 children's future on your shoulders, because I hope that's what it's felt like. I had a conversation with an amazing woman at HCA, I guess it was, I don't remember, one day last week, and she made a comment that says that if you want to see change, you have to create pain. And I hope you feel the pain. I hope you feel the pain of that responsibility. I hope you feel the burden and the weight of it, because it falls on us, the 9 of us at this table. So I hope that regardless of what has happened over the past 2 hours that we've been here, that we can get laser focused on that single mission and that single responsibility to help ensure the academic success of 83,000 students. Thank you very much. Ms. Froeg?
Amen. First of all, and there being no no further business, this meeting is adjourned.
One down, 800.